Hello there, it's Toastie Potato here. I'm doing a series on how to build trees in Minecraft. I've seen some fantastic people in the past make some fantastic trees, but over time I've always tended to be a bit unsatisfied with them for various reasons, and so I thought I would give my own little season of it, showing you guys how to do it, giving some hints and tips, taking some ideas from other people and then use them as my own. I'm going to be doing it in an approach of looking at the trees themselves and giving an idea of general concepts, and then you guys can go and take that stuff yourself. We're starting off this with some coconut palms. Now, they're not in the game at all, and I think they're pretty cool. They're pretty sculptural. And what I've done is I've taken the ideas from Corrales on, I think, season 7 of Hermitcraft, and some of the things which B-Dub's been teaching on his own little Minecraft server about how to use glass in a way of stretching these trunks to do some interesting things, and just bringing some of my own stuff, like thinking what should the coconuts themselves be made of to create some really cool looking shapes. We've got some pretty standard ones, which are nice, tall and skinny, as well as some pretty wonky ones, which have decided to explore the world in ways which trees typically don't. Let's hop over to Creative Server and I'll show you a tutorial on how to make this. We're gonna start off using some mud brick blocks. They provide a really good texture for giving that sense of how the trunk has the leaves fall off over time. I quite like using walls as much as possible with trees. Some trees are about 1 meter wide, which is the size of a block, but generally not, and so they tend to look a bit bulky if you do that. My friend Motion, who I play with, introduced the idea of using the glass like he saw on the B-Dubs Let's Play series, because we were exploring some ideas together to figure out how we can make this work. And I was originally just starting off with a vertical trunk because I couldn't quite think of how to make it with the thin stalk to have the angle. So he brought that in. I think it looks really good, especially the brown glass. It really allows you to draw much more complicated shapes. And when you see on the survival server that the preview was on earlier on, you can see how far you can actually stretch those out. With this one, we're just doing a slight angle where it's coming up and just like slowly placing walls and glass to enable us to stretch the trunk in a way. And kind of like B-Dubs was saying with the sense of the anti-aliasing, which is the way computers have softened lines to draw in the shape so you don't get these hard angles, the glass is really doing that, as well as physically pulling bits of wall out so they can connect a bit better. At the top, we're just going to add some strip jungle blocks. I like using that because it enables us to place cocoa beans down. The cocoa beans look really good as coconuts. Now, with the striations on the trunk, what's actually happening there is the leaves die and fall off, and then that enables the growth of this trunk to happen. So what you always tend to find at the bottom of a coconut palm are some dying or dead leaves, and it looks like a bit of a brown, like grassy mass. Trying to replicate that, I'm using birch leaves, which have a bit of a browner tone, and spruce leaves, which are darker, so that you get a sense of shadow. So when it goes further up into the coconut palm, you kind of look into the depth. I really like using a variety of leaves because it helps you get a sense of more depth happening with the foliage. Otherwise, it can just look like a blob of a single type of leaf and a blob of a single color. So here I am just going around like adding these in, thinking about where they can go to provide a base for the much larger leaves to go on top. Another thing I think is super important is making sure that you have gaps in your tree. The way that Minecraft renders things, it means that you get to see all of the block, whereas if you have two birch leaves next to each other, it actually starts to hide bits and pieces of it. So by having gaps, as well as having different types of leaves touching each other, you get a much more interesting kind of texture growing up within the space. For the fronds themselves, we're using mangrove leaves. And you can see I'm just about to start adding them here. At this point, once we've got enough kind of mess at the base, I'm going to say, okay, cool, let's suck in some mangrove leaves on it. And I'm just going to do 2 here in slow motion so you can see what we're doing. I'm kind of doing them diagonally. I think don't worry about the fact that they don't touch, and trying to do them in an arch where you can see, you've got 2 horizontal, 2 diagonal, and then like this are hanging down. You'll see some of the large leaves I do later on, I have 3 or groups of 2 which drop down 2 at a time. And essentially we're now going to be using the mangrove leaves to start creating like these sculpted arches, which are going to be the main leaves. So here I do a quick time lapse. You can see how I'm doing all the different leaves and putting them all together. And essentially at this point, it's really annoying to do on a survival server. The happy ghasts are incredibly helpful in this, but just to show you how we're just doing on the creative. And you can see I'm basically just doing a hairstyle of these fronds or these leaves which are hanging out. And there we are, we have a palm tree. Just doing a vertical one. It's exactly the same process. Put some jungle logs on top with some cocoa beans. Make the mess of the dying leaves around, and then just start building up our larger leaves out of mangrove. This technique can be used for all different shapes and sizes. Just explore what you want to do with the trunk. Have it go either super vertical, like the one I'm working on now, something much more wonky. So if you're doing a beach scene where you have these, where the storm like wrecked and they have the winds blowing them, then you can have much more wonky trunks. But the basic construction is exactly the same. What you will find though over time is if you have lots of them, they start to merge together. And so I find it's quite nice to add some azalea leaves on top. It's a bit too light for my liking. I prefer a browner leaf, which I could add to the bottom. But by that way, you can see the azalea leaf in front of the other trees. It just starts to give it a bit of a separation so they don't just become one mass of palm tree leaves. And that's it. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you found this helpful. I'm going to be trying to do this with different trees every 2 weeks or so. So if you have any ideas or thoughts of things that you'd like me to do or try out, just drop a mention in the comments what kind of tree you'd like me to explore, and I'd be happy to put together a tutorial for it. There's a couple more trees that I already have done, and we'll be exploring them in the next few weeks, hopefully. I hope you found this helpful, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. Bye-bye.